The winning blueprint presents.
Welcome, you are in the lab room. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. It's Monday, the Monday after a major holiday, which was Thanksgiving in this instance. And so a lot of football to get to. We've already covered the 3 Thursday games. Those were all won by the road teams. Now we're looking into the Sunday slate of games, go over the weekend that was, and go slate skating so we can go over all of these games. And just to give you a little bit of how my weekend went in terms of prognosticating, the lab had a fabulous week. Right now, I am 12-3. And if I could get the win tonight, I will go to 13-3. And this is what I was telling you about. This is one of those weeks where it tested you as a prognosticator. If you're someone that picks games, this was the week that you needed to stand up and show that you actually know what you're talking about. Because there were a lot of close games that could have went either way. You know, a lot of people didn't know what to do with that Atlanta-Tampa Bay game. It was a nail-biter. A lot of people didn't know what to do with that Jacksonville game. Them coming off of that nice showing a week ago, even though they lost. Tennessee coming off a win, even though they were on a bye. A lot of people didn't know what to do with those type of games. I mean, you look at the Pittsburgh game. Who saw that coming? You may have, you may not have. It doesn't matter. These are the type of matchups that you had in front of you. The San Francisco and the Saints game. That was another matchup that could have thrown you for a loop. This is a week that you had to know what you were doing. When you look at the Giants and the Packers, you had to know what you were doing to make the right pick there. And this was a week that really tested you to see if you really knew what you were talking about, to see if you really had a good grasp of what's going on in the National Football League this year. And I told you, I felt like I was in a position to make the right picks most times than not. And so, voila, I end up with a 12-3 mark going into Monday night. I feel good about my Monday night pick. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Let's get into the weekend that was and go slate skating. So let's do that right now.
The weekend that was. We're slate skating. We're slate skating. We're slate skating. We're slate skating.
So as we take a trip back to the weekend that was, the first matchup that we're going to get into is the Buffalo Bills traveling to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. And I said on the top of the show on Friday, it was show me week. And I needed teams to show me why they wanted to be a viable candidate to make the playoffs this season. A lot of teams had different storylines going into the games. And each team needed to show me something, especially if you were competing for a spot. Whether it's trying to get back into a race, whether you're trying to elevate yourself over the rest of the teams chasing you in a race, or you just need to re-solidify yourself as a top contender in your conference. Whatever the case may be, a lot of teams needed to show me things in Week 12. This was one of them, the Indianapolis Colts. I needed them to show me that they were serious about staying ahead of the rest of the teams chasing them for one of those AFC playoff berths. They needed to win this game. This was a must-win game at home because if you're the Colts, you need to get to at least 9 wins. 9 wins will give you a legitimate shot at getting into the postseason. The Colts already had 6 wins going into this game, and the Bills are not a good team. You are at home. This is a game that you needed to have, especially after the thrashing that you received last week at the hands of the New England Patriots on the road. You needed to come home, hit the reset button, and get a win against a very lackluster opponent in the Buffalo Bills. That's what they did, and they did it in the right way. Again, I told them they needed to keep the amount of attempts for Andrew Luck down. Look, I've already come to the realization that they're not going to ask Andrew Luck to only throw it 27 times in a game. That's not what this Colts team is going to do. They ask a lot out of Andrew Luck, and he usually responds. So I've already come to the realization that he's going to throw it over 30 times every game. So you can forget about it. He may have had 1 or 2 games this season where he didn't throw it over 30 times, but for the most part, he's going to throw it over 30, close to 40, if not up over 40 times every single game. That's just what the Colts need him to do for them to win football games. So I'm going to stop talking about what they shouldn't have him do, and I'm just going to focus on what he does during the course of the game. He went 20 of 37 in this game. He didn't do anything special. This wasn't the Andrew Luck that we saw against the Green Bay Packers that just had a phenomenal game. This was just a steady Andrew Luck. Again, you're playing the Buffalo Bills. Don't need to play outside of yourself. You don't need to play outside of the offense. All you need to do is play within the scheme, play within the flow of the game, and you'll get a win because you don't need to turn it over. When you try to do extra things that you might not necessarily need to do, that's when you force the issue. That's when turnovers start to happen. He didn't do that in this game. He didn't need to. You were playing the Buffalo Bills, and I think he kept that in the back of his mind. You don't sell teams short in the National Football League. When you do that, you lose games. We'll talk about a game where a team sold another team short, found a way to lose a little bit later. But they didn't do that in this game. You don't do that in the National Football League. You lose games that way. They didn't do that. But I think that they went into this game knowing if we just play our game, we don't turn the football over, we limit the mistakes, we should be able to beat this Buffalo Bills football team. And that's what they did. You get a punt return from T.Y. Hilton, a nice 75-yard punt return. Beautiful from T.Y. Hilton. You get that touchdown. And again, when you're playing teams that aren't better than you, just win 2 out of the 3 phases of the game. That's what the Colts did here. The Colts weren't that sharp on the offensive end. They didn't do a lot on offense. They did just enough on offense. So you could call that a wash. But they won defense, they won special teams, they won the football game. You could give them offense, you can give them special teams, they won the football game. Just win 2 out of the 3 phases. Don't turn the football over. For the most part, you'll win every single time in the National Football League. That's what the Colts did in this game. Andrew Luck was steady. 1 touchdown, 1 interception. They ran the football. They did the things it takes to win you the football game. They didn't allow the Bills to run the football as effectively as they would have liked. They didn't allow the Bills to score points. They really kept the Bills at bay for the most part. The Bills cut it to 20-13 in the early stages of the 4th quarter, but they never really got closer than 7 in this game. The Colts really kept them away with a nice, firm, stiff arm for the most part in this game. Never really allowed them to get close. And they wrapped up a victory at home. It wasn't the prettiest of victories, but that's irrelevant. The big picture here is you got the W, and that's all that matters. Colts take this one 20-13, elevate their record to 7-4 on the season. Bills drop this one, go to 4-7 on the season, and this is a big win for the Colts. I said, show me that you want to be a real contender for a AFC playoff berth, and they said, okay, I'll show you. They responded. They showed me on Show Me Week, and they got the win, and now they're 7-4, and they're in the driver's seat to get a playoff berth if they continue on the path that they're on in the AFC Conference. Moving on. Looking at the next matchup, this was a surprise, but it wasn't a surprise to me, but this was a surprise to many. I can't say that I was shocked, but I was somewhat taken back by the outcome of this football game. Just watching this game, if you're not a Steelers fan, these are one of those in-awe moments where you just really can't believe what you're seeing, because it's hard in the National Football League to turn it over 8 times. It's so hard to do that. I mean, there's not many times you can say, yeah, I watched that game and I seen a team turn the football over 8 times. There's not many times you can say that. I don't know if I've ever watched the football, and I probably have. But it's just so hard to remember a team turning it over 8 times in one game and still having a legitimate shot to win. But that's what happened on Sunday when the Pittsburgh Steelers traveled to Cleveland to try to handle a little bit of family business. Now, I had said going into this matchup on Friday, this was a show me game because I needed the Steelers to show me that they could take a 3rd-string quarterback, go into a tough environment to win in Cleveland. It's family business. They know you. You know them. This isn't going to be a blowout, especially being that you don't have all of your weapons. You don't have all of your stuff. So you need to show me that you can go into a hostile environment like Cleveland, a division opponent like Cleveland on the road, and with your 3rd-string quarterback, and get it done. It wasn't the simplest of tasks, but it was a reasonable request. Just go on the road with a veteran backup quarterback. This isn't, a Dan Orlovsky, or this isn't some kind of journeyman quarterback like a Charlie Whitehurst or something. This wasn't a guy that you had to beg and plead to get you a win. This shouldn't have been like pulling teeth. You had a veteran quarterback in Charlie Batch who's been on your roster for about the last 5 or 6 seasons. He's someone that you should be able to trust to just plug in the game with limited reps in practice. And even though he already knew he was going to go and have to suit up for this game, so even with the reps he's gotten all week, still without really getting reps throughout the course of the season, you should be able to plug Charlie Batch in and say, hey, just run the offense, be steady, don't turn it over. We should be able to beat the Cleveland Browns. Don't beat ourselves, we'll be fine. That was a reasonable request for this Steelers team. Just go into Cleveland and don't throw up all over yourself. Don't turn it over. Don't make mistakes. Just play within the offense. If you only score 16, it'll be fine if you don't turn it over. You'll probably win the game 16-13. But if you turn it over and you don't score points, this Browns team will find a way to scratch and claw and piece together 6 field goals and beat you. And what happened in this game was a comedy of errors on the part of the Pittsburgh Steelers. This game started out with a Lawrence Timmons pick 6 that put the Steelers on top, and you're thinking, okay, this defense is going to have to help carry them in this football game, but it's okay. You need a team effort to get this one done because you don't have your horses. You don't have a stable of guys that you can trust to get it done, so you're going to have a complete team effort. Special teams, defense, offense are all going to have to play as one to get you a victory today. And that's okay. I said Brandon Weeden will give you opportunities if you apply the pressure to him. Early on, that's what they did. He threw the pick 6. They were able to deposit it for points. And that was supposed to be something that the Steelers built off of in this game. Instead, that turnover transferred from the Browns over to the Steelers, and it was contagious. I mean, everybody got in on the party. This was a turnover fiesta, and everybody on the Steelers roster wanted in. You start out with Charlie Batch, who I was very disappointed in, because as a veteran backup quarterback, this is what you were paid for. Games just like this, where you're on the roster, you don't get a lot of reps, you're a veteran backup quarterback. I don't ask much of you other than when I call your number on the road against a bad football team, you just come in and manage the game. Don't turn it over. Don't play outside of yourself. Play within the offense. Do just enough to win. I don't care if we win by 1. I don't care if we win by 3. Just get me a W. This is what you have veteran quarterbacks like Charlie Batch on your roster for. And he did not get it done. I was so disappointed with Charlie Batch's performance because he knows better than to come into the game and throw 3 interceptions. And I don't care whose fault it is. You have to be better if you're Charlie Batch. Very disappointing effort from him. But see, it doesn't stop there because Charlie Batch had a terrible game. But if the running backs of the Steelers were able to pick Charlie Batch up, even with those 3 interceptions, they still would have had a chance to win. If they could have just ran the football effectively, not turned it over on the ground, and they would have probably still won this game. Because if you look at it, the Steelers turned it over 8 times. The Browns only turned it over once. And the Browns only won this game by 6 points. So that tells you that the Browns needed every single last one of these 8 turnovers to win this game. So if you just give Charlie Batch the 3 picks, you don't fumble on the ground with any of your running backs, you probably still find a way to win this game. Instead, the running back said, hey, it's a turnover fiesta, my turn. So all of a sudden, Rashad Mendenhall wants to put it on the ground twice. They get one back, but they ultimately lose one. Then you say, okay, Rashad, you get out since you want to fumble. Chris Redman, you get in. Chris Redman decides he wants to fumble the football. Okay, you get out. Jonathan Dwyer, you get in. He decides to fumble the ball. So now you're out of options at this point. You say, okay, none of you guys want to hold on to the football. Chris Rainey, you get in. And he had a spectacular touchdown before the half, and so you're like, okay, maybe the speedster can get it done for us today. Maybe he'll be the X factor that helps us find a way to win a game that we have no business winning. He fumbles at the end, even though I'll cut him a break because that fumble that he had came on a gruesome injury where he was bent back, hurt his leg, and he just dropped the football. I get it. Still, nonetheless, it's a turnover, but I can kind of, accept his more so than the others. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, they all fumbled the football. Every last back on this Pittsburgh Steelers roster, with the exception of Byron Batch, who didn't suit up, fumbled the football, and there's no excuse for that. This team came into the game thinking that all we had to do was show up and we'll beat the Browns. Because a lot of these guys on this roster have been on this Steelers team, have never lost to the Browns since they've been a Steeler. It's been that good to them. It's been that easy for them. And the Browns games may not have been easy, but they expect to beat the Cleveland Browns. They expect to beat the Cincinnati Bengals. There's guys on this roster who have been here for 3-4 years, never lost to the Cleveland Browns, never lost to the Cincinnati Bengals. And so they expect to show up and get a win. And it didn't happen because guys weren't focused. Guys didn't do their jobs adequately. And now, if you're the Steelers, this was a back-breaking loss. If the playoffs started today, you would still be the last team in the AFC. But you've got to know that this loss is one of those ones that will haunt you come the end of the season. These are one of the losses that you look back on and it bites you. It bites you in the butt at the end of the season because you can't afford to lose games to the Cleveland Browns. You have to beat the Cleveland Browns if you're the Steelers. Now, with the Ravens winning on Sunday, this puts you a full 3 games behind the Ravens. They've already beat you. You have to go to Baltimore on Sunday now. You can't expect to win if Charlie Batch is your starting quarterback. You better hope Ben Roethlisberger has a miraculous comeback. He's able to go, and even if he is, he's probably not going to be 100%. But 60% Ben is better than what you got out of Charlie Batch on Sunday. So you're in trouble. Going to Baltimore, down 3 in this division. And, hey, forget about Baltimore. Because now you're fighting for your playoff lives now. Because the Cincinnati Bengals, they're knocking on the door now. And you don't have a choice. You have to open that door because you have to play the Bengals again. Now, can you keep them from coming in? I don't know. This is a dangerous situation that the Steelers have put themselves in. That's why this was a show-me game that you had to have. You didn't get it done. Charlie Batch and the rest of that Pittsburgh Steelers offense weren't able to show that they were competent enough to go out on the road and get a win against a bad Cleveland Browns team. And now you have to pay the price. This Steelers team is in trouble. And we know the curse. I don't like to talk about the curse. But the curse says that the Steelers don't make the postseason every 3 years. And look, what do you know? This is the 3rd year of this little curse. They didn't make it in 09. They didn't make it in 06. Now it's 2012. 3 years later, they're looking like it's starting to swirl around this Pittsburgh Steelers team. I don't know. I don't like to buy into things like that, but I'm telling you, some freaky things going on this year with the Steelers, and it's looking like a team that doesn't want to make the postseason. Browns 20, Steelers 14. This one is a debilitating loss for the Steelers, and you got to find a way to pick yourself up off the canvas and get a win next week at Baltimore. I don't know how you plan on doing that, especially after you look this bad on Sunday against the Browns, and Charlie Batch is most likely going to have to be your quarterback next week. I don't know how you're going to pull that rabbit out of your hat. Good luck, Pittsburgh Steelers. This was an ugly, ugly defeat. Browns are now 3-8 on the season. Kudos to them for getting it done at home against a team that they have found it hard over the years to beat. Steelers, meanwhile, dropped to 6-5 on the season, and they are clinging to their playoff lives right now. And it's only going to get worse because they have a tough matchup with the Ravens looming next Sunday in Baltimore. Nonetheless, probably won't have the services of your starting quarterback, probably won't have the services of your backup quarterback, probably going to have to turn to either Hoyer or Charlie Batch. Good luck with that one. Next game up on the slate is the Oakland Raiders, who traveled to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. Another show-me game. We already know what the Raiders are about. I didn't need them to show me anything. They've shown me enough this season. I was talking to the Cincinnati Bengals in this case. Show me that you really want back into this AFC playoff picture. Because if you are serious, then you'll dispose of the Raiders, no problems. No questions asked. Nothing to be concerned about come the end of the ball game. You will have this game well in hand. And that's exactly what you did. And that's what I expected you to do. The Raiders are a bad team. This was my sole survivor pick of the week. I knew that the Bengals would come out and dominate this Raiders team because the Raiders are finished. They're done. They don't play any defense anymore. They don't do enough on offense to win themselves ball games. And they didn't really turn it over in this game. This was just some unproductive Raider offense. Carson Palmer had 1 pick in this game, but for the most part, this was just a team unable to sustain drives throughout the course of the game. A lot of punts from the Raiders in this game, and all the Cincinnati Bengals did was just take full advantage of these punts and just drive the ball down the field and score. They allowed Ben Jarvis Green Ellis to have his best game of the season. He broke off an early run in this game, ended up scoring a touchdown right afterwards, and he just set the tone from that point on. They just went and did what the Bengals were supposed to do in this game. Andy Dalton was solid, found Mohamed Sanu a couple of times for touchdowns. A.J. Green had a field day, 3 catches, over 100 yards. They did what they were supposed to do to a bad football team at home. They take the Raiders down 34-10. Now they're 6-5 on the season. And all of a sudden now, they're knocking on the door of the Pittsburgh Steelers for that last playoff spot. The Steelers didn't want to answer the door before. They were running away from them. Now they have no choice. They have to play this Cincinnati Bengals team once more before the season is done. Someone's going to get their feelings hurt. I think one of these two teams will make the postseason. I don't know who it will be, but I tell you one thing. This Cincinnati Bengals team is playing better football of late, and they're coming on at the right time. This Steelers team is in trouble. The Bengals get it done at home against the Raiders. 34-10. They're now 6-5 on the season. The Raiders are now 3-8 on the season. The Bengals are starting to get it together, and we know they play solid defense. This offense is coming along. They're finding other options other than A.J. Green. Jermaine Gresham came up big in this game as well. If they can start to find guys like Mohamed Sanu, find guys like Jermaine Gresham, this team can be a dangerous club down the stretch. Look out for the Cincinnati Bengals. Moving on to the next matchup, the Minnesota Vikings traveled to Chicago, to Soldier Field to take on the Chicago Bears, and what we knew was going to be some tough family business. What we didn't account for was 2 Adrian Peterson fumbles. He picked the worst Sunday to have his worst game of the season. He still went over 100 yards, but we don't expect Adrian Peterson to put it on the carpet twice in one football game. That's what he did. Bears took advantage. I said I wanted the Bears to show me that they could get it done without the aid of their defense. And what I'm starting to realize is this is just who the Bears are. The Bears defense is going to force turnovers. The Bears are going to win. That Bears defense is going to have to force turnovers. So I'm going to stop asking for the Bears to show me what they can do when they don't get turnovers, when the defense isn't scoring for them. Because this is a part of who they are now. I realize that. I was being hard-headed. I didn't want to listen. I didn't want to believe what my eyes were seeing. But this is what the Bears are going to do moving forward. This is who they are. This is what they're going to continue to do. They're going to continue to force turnovers. So I'm done with it. I won't ask them anymore to prove something to me that they don't have to prove to me, because they're not going to win without getting turnovers from their defense. That's just how it is. Their defense is going to force turnovers. The offense needs to be able to use those turnovers to create points. They did that in this game. Adrian Peterson put it on the carpet. Jay Cutler was very effective in this game. Not, gaudy numbers. These were, 300 yards passing on 24 of 31 passing. He was solid in this game. 21, 27, 177 yards, something around that area. He wasn't, going outside of himself. Remember, this is his first game back after the concussion a few weeks back, and so he was just looking to pick his spots. He did what Jay Cutler does, get out of the pocket, scramble around, look for Brandon Marshall, found him, got pass interference on a couple of plays, got them in the end zone. They did all the things necessary to win this game. They held the Vikings down. Christian Ponder threw 1 interception. Adrian Peterson dropped it on the ground twice. That's 3 turnovers. You can't do that and win on the road. You know that. And so the Vikings went into Soldier Field, turned it over 3 times, lost the turnover battle, wasn't effective on defense like they needed to be in this game. They lost 2 of the 3 battles. Now, a lot of guys in this game for the Bears went down. This was a costly win. You see a lot of guys. Peanut Tillman went down with an injury. Devin Hester went down with an injury. A lot of guys. There were several other Bears who did not make it out of this football game. And so that's something to keep an eye on moving forward. A lot of guys lost for the Bears in this game. A lot of casualties for the Bears in this game. But they get the win. And that's what is important at the end of the day. Get the win. We'll nurse our injuries and lick our wounds afterwards. Just get the win. They were able to do that 28-10. They're now 8-3 on the season, are the Chicago Bears. And back in first place. We'll talk why they are back in first place. But nonetheless, they're 8-3, back in first place in the NFC North. Meanwhile, the Minnesota Vikings dropped one. And this was a show me game for them. Show me that you really want to ascend into the upper echelon of the NFC North. I didn't think they would be able to do it. They weren't able to do it. And so they dropped to 6-5 on the season. They're still right there in the thick of things in the NFC in terms of the playoff hunt. But this was a tough loss. But you didn't expect them to go into Soldier Field and win, did you? I didn't. And so they did what I expected them to do. They went in and they were beat by a better team. 28-10, the Bears get it done. They're 8-3 on the season, in first place. Meanwhile, the Minnesota Vikings dropped to 6-5 on the season. So as we continue to go slate skating on the Sunday slate of games, we find ourselves in Jacksonville where the Jaguars were hosting a divisional opponent in the Tennessee Titans. Titans were coming off a bye. Jacksonville was coming off of their most impressive loss of the season. Sounds funny to say that. Most impressive loss of the season. When you have 9 of them on the season, it takes a lot to get an impressive loss because they all start to look the same after a while. But this was an impressive loss. This wasn't like all the others. This was the start of something brand new. And if you are the Jacksonville Jaguars, you're a fan, a coach, a player, owner, you need brand new in a season where you've lost about 7 straight. So anything that resembles better than what you were doing before is always a welcome change. And so Chad Henne was that breath of fresh air last week against the Texans. And so I went and I said, show me. This was a show me game because this was 2 teams that aren't very good. However, I gave the Jacksonville Jaguars a vote of confidence. I was picking them to win this game. And I said, I need you to show me that I didn't just give you a leap of blind faith. But really, there is some substance behind this pick. Because there's substance behind the move to Chad Henne at quarterback. Please show me that that wasn't an empty pick. That wasn't an empty move to quarterback to Chad Henne. Because if you're Jacksonville, you need an answer at quarterback. You drafted Blaine Gabbert. He doesn't look like the guy. Now, it's early. This is only his 2nd season. But he doesn't look like the guy. He didn't look like a guy that the light bulb is going to come on for and he's just going to start being a heck of an NFL quarterback. I don't know if that's in Blaine Gabbert. But Chad Henne, on the other hand, I saw him get it done in college. I saw flashes in Miami. He's never really been able to put it together. I like this reincarnation of Chad Henne. Wanted to see if he can continue to make it happen in his 2nd consecutive week of playing, his first start of the season. Wanted to see what he would look like and wanted to see if he would really pay dividends for me tenfold with the pick that I made for them on this slate of games. So we get into the game, and Chad Henne did it again. He came out, he played confident football, and I said that this Jacksonville Jaguars team, who seemed like was void of talent, they have a little something. This Cecil Shorts guy, Cecil Shorts the third, I'm going to start calling him Cecil Shorts the third. That's what he has on the back of his jersey, which means he wants to be notified as the third. You keep catching the ball like you're catching it. I'll call you whatever you want me to call you. Cecil Shorts the third is playing some dynamite football. Learn his name because he's making plays every week. He's showing up every week. So if you don't know any other players on the Jacksonville Jaguars roster, learn this name, Cecil Shorts the third, because the man is showing up every single week and getting it done for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And he did it again as he ran after the catch, catching a pass from Chad Henne and taking off to the races. Over 100 yards receiving in this game, another touchdown, and he had the go-ahead touchdown in this game. Cecil Shorts III is the man for the Jacksonville Jaguars. You sprinkle in a little bit of Justin Blackmon, who you drafted to be the man, and all of a sudden, you might have something in Jacksonville. Justin Blackmon had another solid performance, and it's all due to Chad Henne. He's giving guys an opportunity to catch the football and make something happen thereafter. And so Chad Henne got it done again against a team that I thought he could. I'm not impressed with this Tennessee Titans team because I don't really like Jake Locker at the quarterback position. I said that Matthew Hasselbeck, I thought was the best option for them this season. And you saw what Matthew Hasselbeck was able to do when he got a little bit of playing time. Now, they did go on a little skid toward the end of Matthew Hasselbeck's playing time. But I tell you what, this Tennessee Titans team, if Hasselbeck would have started from the jump, would have probably been a much better team this season than what they are. Jake Locker, to me, has a lot of growing to do. He has a lot of growth within the pocket. When he gets out of the pocket, he's a dangerous quarterback. But inside the pocket, he has a lot of growing to do. He misses a lot of throws. He makes a lot of mistakes. But this is something that we knew coming out of college, out of Washington, that he was going to do. Something that he was going to have to work on. So I think they have a long way to go with Jake Locker. He made the critical mistake at the end of the game, had it tipped as they were going down for the game-winning score in this game, had his pass tipped, picked off by Dwight Lowry. That was it. End of the game, Jaguars were able to seal it up and win the game 24-19. Another solid performance by Chad Henne and his Jacksonville Jaguars offense. All of a sudden now, the Jacksonville Jaguars are a team that you don't want to play at the end of this season, especially if you're looking to try to make something happen moving forward, trying to get into the postseason, because they don't have anything to lose. And now they feel confident. All of a sudden, for the first time this season, they feel like every time we suit up, we lace the cleats up and step on the field, we got a shot to win. That's a dangerous feeling for a team who hasn't felt like that all season long. All of a sudden, they're starting to play good football. And if they win 2 or 3 games here down the stretch, they're going to start feeling good. And all of a sudden now, they're going to play with a chip on their shoulder that says, we're getting ready for next year. And they're going to start to try to build on something for the next season. That's a dangerous team that you don't want to play moving forward. Chad Henne is playing solid football. Let's see if he can finish this season out well enough to garner a shot at starting next year for this Jacksonville Jaguars team. Jaguars 24, Titans 19. The Jaguars proved me right. I appreciate that. I said, show me that you can go out and beat a team that I think you should be able to beat at home in the division, handle some family business, and they showed me. And I give you a lot of kudos for that. Good job, Jacksonville Jaguars. You get it done 24-19. You go to 2-9 on the season, snapping an 8-game losing streak. Meanwhile, the Tennessee Titans come off their bye after beating the Dolphins in impressive fashion before the bye, drop this one, and go to 4-7 on the season. So as we continue down the slate of games and go over the weekend that was, the Atlanta Falcons traveled to Tampa Bay to take on a hot Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. And we're talking about winners of their last 4 out of 5. They're playing really good football right now. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were scoring points on offense. Atlanta, meanwhile, had just lost their first game just 2 weeks ago to the New Orleans Saints. Were able to bounce back last week and get a win in ugly fashion. Nonetheless, it's a win. And so they needed to prove that we can beat a team over 500. They haven't done that many times this season. You know, there's so many people picking away at this Falcons season thus far. They're 9-1, and yet you have a lot of people sticking needles in them in different directions. You're not doing this. You're not blowing teams out. You're winning close games. You're not beating teams with records over 500. Matt Ryan is turning the football over. You're not running the football well. You can be ran on. There's a lot of things people are trying to do to dissect this Atlanta Falcons team. Guess what? I don't care. You know why I don't care about all these pundits saying this and saying that? Because the Falcons are winning games. I don't care if it's close. I don't care if it's a blowout. I don't care if it's ugly. I don't care if it's pretty. It's a win, which is a win, which is a win, which is a win in the National Football League. You ask any team around the league, would they rather win ugly or lose pretty? I guarantee you every single time they'll tell you, give me the ugly win. Give me the ugly win every single time, every day of the week. And so you sit here and listen to all these pundits tell you that the Falcons aren't that good of a football team, or the Falcons aren't this, or the Falcons aren't that. They find a way to win. And to me, that is a mark of a good team. When you find a way to win, when you don't play your best football, when you find a way to win, when the other team is doing everything in their will to beat you, and you still find a way to win, that is the mark of a good team. That's what separates the good teams in the league from the bad teams in the league. The good ones find a way to win. The bad ones find a way to lose. So you can save all of the nonsense and all the chit-chat about what the Falcons are or aren't. They're winners. They're 9-1 in the season. And they took that 9-1 mark to Tampa Bay. I thought they would be able to get it done. I asked them to show me. Show me that you can reign supreme over your division. Because right now, you could have lost at home to Carolina. Probably should have. Cam Newton doesn't fumble the ball on third down. You probably lose that game. No, you don't probably. You do lose that game. So Carolina's not afraid of you. You lose to New Orleans in the Superdome. That's a tough place to play. So you get a pass there. But still, nonetheless, if you're the best team, you got to be able to go win on the road. So you lose there. Now you got to play a Tampa Bay team that's been playing really good football, and you have to go to Tampa Bay and get it done. I need you to show me that you can go on the road in the division and get it done. I need you to show me that you are, in fact, the best team, without a doubt, in your division, in the NFC South. I need you to show me that. Leave no questions unanswered. Answer them this week. Show me that you are who we think you are. Show me that you are the best team in the NFC record-wise. Show me. And that's what the Falcons did. Wasn't the prettiest. They had opportunities that they squandered in this game. Matt Bryant missed a couple of field goals, including a chip shot field goal right before the half. That kills momentum. You got to have that one. You can't miss that field goal if you're Matt Bryant. He's been struggling this year. He has to get it together if the Falcons are going to do anything moving forward. He missed at the end. Look, you know what? We'll get to the end of the game for the Falcons in a little bit. Just want to talk about what happened throughout the course of this game. Matt Ryan threw an early pick. He wasn't sharp early on, but then he got his act together. And he started to find guys. Julio Jones was huge in this game, including a big touchdown catch where he shrugged off a defender, ran down the sideline for a long 70-yard touchdown reception. And so this Falcons team is deadly because they can get it done. Jaguars Rodgers is starting to step up. He's the X factor on this team. As he goes, this Falcons offense goes, because we know Michael Turner isn't a viable running back anymore. The Falcons ran him into the ground. What do you expect to happen when you give a guy the football 340 times every season since you've had him? You're going to run him into the ground. Michael Turner just turned 30 years old, not even a season ago. He should have a lot of tread left on his tires because he was a backup in San Diego. He wasn't getting all of the carries. He should have a lot of tread left. But those Falcons, you know, they're the guys that get the brand new tires from Firestone. And they use them and they run them ragged. They drive here, they drive there, and all of a sudden, those tires are bald after not even 2 years of usage. That's what these Falcons have done to Michael Turner. They've used him up. And so now, he's damaged goods. You can use him in the red zone because he's a battering ram down there. But from 20 to 20, he's not going to be overly effective unless you're playing a team that has no run defense whatsoever. And so, Jaguars Rodgers is the X factor because he can run the football, but even more so, he's a dangerous threat out of the backfield catching the football. And they need him down the stretch. He was big in this game as well. Matt Ryan was able to make things happen when they got in the red zone, find guys, get touchdowns. This Buccaneers team, they had a valiant effort, but they left some plays out on the table. Josh Freeman had one throw in this game that if he could, he would beg and plead to have back because he had Mike Williams open for a touchdown and overshot him by about 5 yards too high. He gets that touchdown pass. I'm not sure that the Bucs don't win this game. At the time when he missed that pass, they had to settle for a field goal. They had the Falcons reeling in this game. He misses that pass. They only get 3. The Falcons get 7. They take the lead. They never relinquish it. Those are the type of plays that the good teams make. The bad teams or the teams on the rise who haven't quite figured out how to beat the better teams in the league don't make. And that's what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did in this game. They had an opportunity. They squandered it. And so they don't win this game. Now, the Falcons had opportunities themselves. Asante Samuel dropped 2 picks in this game. So everybody made their share of mistakes. But the good teams, like the Falcons, find ways to win games like this. And that's what happened. Atlanta gets the win 24-23 against Tampa Bay. But I want to talk a little bit before I go on to the next game about the end of the game situation with the head coach Mike Smith of the Atlanta Falcons. This, to me, was bad coaching. And good teams help coaches get away with bad coaching sometimes. But I tell you what, when you get into the postseason, things become magnified. Everything you do is under a microscope. I'm watching you. I see you. And I was watching you yesterday. At the end of the game, there's, 20 seconds left. You have the football. You're at about the Tampa Bay 30, 35-yard line, which is a makeable field goal. I'm not disputing the fact that your kicker should have been able to go out there and make a field goal. That's not the right call in that instance. There was nothing to be gained by you kicking a field goal that wasn't smart. What a good coach does in that situation, and first of all, let's back up a second to the third down call. Why the hell were you throwing the football? That in itself was stupid. So I'll take it a step further. That was a dumb play call on third down when you know the Bucs don't have timeouts. That could have been an incompletion. That could have gave the Bucs all the time they needed to drive down the field to get the game-winning score. So that wasn't smart in itself. But you were able to get away because you completed the pass. You were able to run some clock off. Then what smart teams do, what smart coaches do, is they punt the football in that situation. Why are you kicking a field goal? Anything could happen. You could have it blocked, or in your instance, have it missed. Give the Buccaneers the ball at about the 35, 40-yard line with a chance to complete a 22-yard, out route, have pass interference call. You don't know what is going to happen. Put them in field goal range, you lose the game because you decided to kick a field goal. Even if your punter punts it out of the back of the end zone and the Bucs get it at their own 20, they have to go 60, 55 yards just to get in the field goal range with, 10 to 12 seconds left on the clock and no timeouts. All but impossible. So for you to do the one thing that will keep them in the game makes no sense. And so Mike Smith, you've made some questionable calls before. You go back to last year when you went for it in overtime against the Saints in your own territory, which wasn't a smart move. You've made some questionable decisions as a coach. I got my eye on you because you've gotten away with them because your team makes the plays to help you win games. But yesterday, that took the cake. You could have lost a game that you easily should have won because you wanted to go and send your kicker, who, by the way, has been struggling, had missed a 23-yard field goal earlier in the game. You send him on the field, put him in a bad spot, he misses, and it could have cost you. It didn't, but that wasn't smart. Falcons get it done, 24-23. They go to 10-1 on the season. Meanwhile, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who were hot, who had been playing hot football of late, they dropped to 6-5 on the season. They don't need to hang their heads. They played a better team. They lost. They still are right there in the thick of things in the NFC playoff hunt. They just need to keep playing good football, scoring points, and winning football games.